yes, oh yes, oh yes. Silence is commanded on pain of imprisonment while the honorable judges of the Court of Appeals of Virginia are sitting. All persons having business with this court will draw near and give their attention. Any having pleas to enter or suits to prosecute, let them come forward and they shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth and this honorable court.
You may be seated. The Court of Appeals today of Virginia is convened for the special investiture of Judge LeRoy Francis Millette, Jr. as the 30th Judge of the Court of Appeals of Virginia. We invite you to participate in the ceremony and to give heed to that which you're about to see. Honor Guard, post the colors.
Ready, face, detail. Oh, there. Ready, cut. Ready, stand.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mark, time. March. Face. Forward. Yep.
We welcome you again today for this formal ceremony that's steeped and is rich in its history. An investiture is the modern equivalent of a lord giving land to a lesser lord and then having his oath in return of loyalty to the upper lord for the commission of allegiance then given. In terms of judicial history, it is a recognition first of the giving of the oath of office of the judge, recognizing publicly in a special way among friends and special guests the importance of what is about to be undertaken. The invest is simply putting on the black robe signifying impartiality for all who would come before the court to seek justice. We will proceed through the program, and then afterwards we will join together again with a less formal celebration of honoring Judge LeRoy Francis Millette, Jr. I would call to the podium the Honorable Paul B. Ebert, the Commonwealth Attorney of Prince William County. You may.
Certainly my pleasure to be here to introduce to all of you, and of course he needs no real introduction, the man of the hour. I didn't realize his middle name was Francis till a few minutes ago, but you know, I've known Lee, I guess, since he started practicing law, and of course I've known his wife Beth when she was a Xerox copiers salesperson, and so I've known them a long time, and I've always admired both of them. Of course, Beth's the one that keeps him straight, as you probably we all know that. At one time, many of you might not know this, but it was a long time ago, because the Washingtonian magazine named Lee Millette as one of the 10 top young lawyers in the metropolitan area. And I don't have to tell you, that was a long time ago, because he was a young lawyer. And he was in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office from 1986 to 1990, and he was really an outstanding prosecutor. By that stage in his career, he was no longer a young lawyer, even though he was probably one of the 10 top lawyers around. And he was always very ambitious. I remember we had one of the senior members in the office pass away, and soon thereafter he came in and said, "Paul, you know, Ed passed away last night." He said, "I'd like to take his place." And I said, "Well, it's all right with me if it's all right with the undertaker." It's an awesome experience for me to be in the presence of so many distinguished jurists, and in some ways I feel like I'm in the William and Mary Alumni Association, but I'm not sure whether the Chief Justice was one of Lee's professors or not, but if he wasn't, he was close nearby, and I know Judge Petty and Lee go back a long way. I think they may have been roommates, but in any event, it's nice to have everybody here, and I don't have to tell the folks here what a fine person that is being, I guess we'll call it, elevated to the Court of Appeals. It's mixed emotions that I congratulate him, because we're going to lose an excellent trial judge, and I think anyone in this courtroom that's been before him will agree with that. His demeanor, decisions are outstanding. He has a outstanding family. I've known these children since they were little bitty kids, and as I say, he's just an outstanding jurist and outstanding person. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the Honorable LeRoy Francis Millette.
Senator Charles J. Colgan, President Pro Tem of the Senate of Virginia. Welcome, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach the podium?
You may, sir, please.
Honorable judges, it's my pleasure to read the Commonwealth of Virginia to the Commission. To all whom these present shall come greeting, know ye that from the special trust and confidence reposed in his fidelity, our governor, by virtue of authority vested in him by law, hereby commissions LeRoy F. Millette, Jr., Judge of the Court of Appeals of Virginia, for a term of 8 years, commencing February 1st, 2008. In testimony whereof our said governor hath hereunto signed his name and affixed the lesser seal of the Commonwealth at Richmond this 8th day of February, 2008, and in the 232nd year of the Commonwealth. Signed, Timothy Kane, Governor, Catherine K. Handley, Secretary of the Commonwealth. Congratulations, Your Honor.
Ms. Elizabeth Millette?
Chief Judge, may I approach the podium?
You may.
I would move the Honorable Court to administer the oath to Judge LeRoy Millette at this time.
Your motion is granted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge LeRoy Francis Millette, Jr. Article 2 of Section 7 of the Constitution of Virginia requires those who are about to enter the judicial office to be administered an oath. Are you prepared to take that oath, sir?
I am.
Please raise your right hand. I
I, LeRoy Francis Millette, Jr.,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as Judge of the Court of Appeals of Virginia,
as Judge of the Court of Appeals of Virginia.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Judge
Thank you very
Millette.
much.
Judge Petty?
Chief Judge Felton, members of the court, senior members, dear friends. I was particularly honored the other day when Judge Millette called me up and asked me if I would participate in the investiture by inviting him to the bench. At the time, I'm not sure that he understood that the invitation to the bench is a time to reflect a little bit upon an individual's past life. Now, that doesn't mean much to many of you here. Some of you know that Judge Millette and I were members of the Pi Kappa Alpha fraternity at the College of William and Mary for 3.5 years, and that we roomed together as in law school for 3 years. I really appreciate the opportunity to reflect a little bit on some of the great adventures we had in those 7 years. But then I looked around and I realized that there were some other of my former fraternity members and law school friends here today. So in the words of Jack Webb, I decided to protect the innocent and pass on those particular comments. But I will tell you that I really have been blessed to have known Lee for quite some time. And we were very close all through college, all through law school. We competed with one another upon graduation. He got the job I wanted right out of law school. I ended up in, no offense, Judge McClanahan, the far southwest of Abington for a year or two before I made it back to Lynchburg. But I followed his career. I'd see him frequently as he was an assistant Commonwealth attorney here in Prince William County. I would see him at judicial conferences and often later as he attended some of the other functions that I happened to participate in. He, of course, served 4 years in Mr. Ebert's office, serving well as a Commonwealth attorney, and then he took that judicial turn early on in his career and went on to the bench of the General District Court here. He was obviously elected as a circuit court judge and served a period of time as a very distinguished member of the judiciary here. Now, one of the things that tells you a lot about Judge Millette as a circuit court judge comes from the fact that his lovely wife, Beth, went on to law school and became an assistant Commonwealth's attorney also here in Prince William County. Now, I spent many years as a Commonwealth attorney in Lynchburg, and I can tell you down my way that as far as defense attorneys were concerned, if a judge was married to a prosecutor, that was the script of Sleeping with the Enemy. But in all the years that this relationship has been in existence, no defense attorney has ever suggested that Judge Millette would not be absolutely fair and absolutely impartial. And I think that is a true reflection of the kind of circuit court judge he has been and the kind of Court of Appeals judge that he will be. I was so pleased when I heard that the governor had appointed him. I'll have to tell you that I was a little bit concerned. Senator Colgan, as the General Assembly went on, I thought he might be graduating some have come lately onto the bench, but fortunately, kind of last second, that process took place and he is now with us. Chief Judge Felton, members of this court, I want to tell you that Judge Millette is going to bring to this court a great legal intellect, a compassionate heart, wonderful common sense, and as I've learned is so important in the short period of time I've been here, a terrific sense of humor. So Judge Millette, I wish you the best. I look forward to sitting next to you as we sit en banc, and at this time I invite you to take your rightful place as a member of the Court of Appeals of Virginia.
Prior to recognizing the presentations that are listed on the program, it is always the privilege to join together with fellow jurists, former members of this court. Justice Keenan is with us from the Supreme Court in Virginia, and two of our senior judges who have taught me more than probably I should have been taught, but have been patient in doing so, and that's Judge Mac Willis and former Chief Judge Joanna Fitzpatrick. I see in the audience too many names that I would risk missing those of you, particularly those of you who have fostered him here in the Prince William Circuit Court, those who have worked with him in the trial of cases every day from the bar, and particularly those who have given of their time and their service in years past for the judiciary. And I'm sure that all of us here appreciate and very much welcome your reminding us of the task that lay ahead for us in all of our judicial decision-making, and thanking you for your guidance in the past. Mr. Robert J. Zelnick.
May I approach the podium, Your Honor?
You may.
May it please the court. H.L. Mencken once defined a judge as a law student who marks his own papers. Now, frankly, that quotation is completely unrelated to anything I want to say about Judge Millette, but with today's audience, I just could not resist passing on that pearl of wisdom. It truly is an honor and a privilege to be able to say a few words about my colleague and good friend, Judge Millette. When the announcement was made that he had been appointed to the Court of Appeals, I can say that every lawyer I spoke to had the same reaction, which consisted of two components. First, that Governor Kane and the legislature could not have made a better selection for the Court of Appeals. And secondly, that this was going to be a terrible loss to the trial bench here in Prince William County. As a matter of fact, there have been some rumors that a recall petition is in the works already. Throughout his entire career, whether he was in private practice or as an assistant Commonwealth attorney, and certainly as a judge, Judge Millette has always demonstrated several basic qualities that have turned him into an outstanding jurist. There's a keen intelligence, an inherent sense of fairness, a commitment to preparation and hard work, and certainly composure and coolness under fire. As I think we all know, these qualities were probably best demonstrated, or at least most publicly demonstrated, during the sniper trial a few years ago. That was a case that is hard to imagine could be more difficult for a trial judge to handle. We had a horrifying crime, to say the least, an erratic defendant, complex factual and legal issues, and probably most importantly, the glare of the media, consistently with unaccountable experts, some of them self-appointed, viewing and critiquing and analyzing every decision that was made. And as we all know, Judge Millette handled the case superbly. He was unflappable, and he really provided a model for the whole country as to how these types of cases, sensational trials, should be handled. But the point that I think is most noteworthy is that the way Judge Millette handled the sniper case is really no different than the way he handles any other case that came before him. The most mundane civil or criminal matter or domestic relations matter received the same care and attention and dedication from him as a judge as the case that put him into the national spotlight. He always treated all litigants and all counsel with courtesy and respect. And when you left his courtroom, whether you had won or whether you had lost, you always knew and felt that you had received a fair trial. So Lee, I want to say congratulations to you on this well-deserved honor. And I think I can safely say on behalf of all members of the County Bar Association that we look forward to appearing before you in the Court of Appeals, but certainly only as appellees and hopefully not as appellants. Congratulations.
John D. McGaven.
John, may I approach the podium?
Yeah, you may.
May it please the Court. Chief Judge Fenton, judges of the Court of Appeals, honored guests, friends, and colleagues. My name is John McGaven. It is indeed a high honor and a privilege to stand before you in this assembly to honor the investiture of my friend, the Honorable LeRoy F. Millette, as a judge of the Court of Appeals. Just some of the facts of Lee's background are these. He received his undergraduate degree from the College of William and Mary and his J.D. from the Marshall Wythe School of Law in 1974. He served in private practice and as a prosecutor until 1990, and he was selected to serve in the General District Court here in Prince William County at that time. In 1993, he was selected to the Circuit Court and served with distinction in that capacity until this selection. In a service capacity, he was selected for the Boyd Graves Conference, the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission, which of course is a great testament to his even temperament, the Circuit Court Bench Book Committee, among others. He has been chief judge in this circuit for 2 separate terms. He's married to M. Elizabeth O'Brien Millette. Beth is a highly regarded and successful prosecutor, and if you know the story, Beth did not go to law school and sacrificed for the family and then got to go to law school and actually came to work for me for a couple of years before she came down here and has distinguished herself as a prosecutor. No one has been more proud of Beth's accomplishments than Lee, and it's a great testament to their family dynamic. Lauren is a graduate of the University of Virginia. She's teaching at Fairfax High School, and Rory is now attending UVA. What you may not know about Lee is he's always loved sports. He played football on Saturday with Bob Whitestone and some of his other friends who are here. Basketball, and I think he still plays racquetball every morning before he sits on the bench. The job he's been selected for has certain unique demands, and the qualities of a successful judge are those that all citizens hope to find when they come to court: intelligence, compassion, fairness, and that elusive element which is sound judicial temperament, and Judge Millette has that. I spoke with the Honorable Joanna Fitzpatrick in preparation for these remarks, and she provided me some insight into the challenges that these judges of the Court of Appeals face. One of their greatest challenges is consensus building, that unique ability to listen, respect the opinion of another, consider that thought, and then independently reach a decision that is right and is supported by your colleagues. This job requires all those things and more, and I sincerely submit that Judge Millette is qualified in all these regards. Bob Zelnick mentioned the case of Commonwealth versus John Muhammad. In that setting, Judge Millette was tested on the national scene under the intense scrutiny of the national microscope with an extraordinary team of prosecutors led by Paul Ebert, who spoke earlier, an outstanding defense team, Peter Greenspun and John Shapiro. The lawyers created many opportunities for very difficult and challenging decisions. The challenge was compounded when Mr. Muhammad decided to represent himself. I have read many of the media pieces that were written during that time in preparation for these remarks, and there was nothing but the highest praise for the outstanding job that Lee did. In the crucible of this case, Judge Millette carried himself in an exemplary fashion. And you might suggest that the national spotlight makes it easier for you to rise to the occasion. Bob Zelnick's comments are exactly mine, and we did not consult in preparing for these remarks. But what I wanted to say to this group is that the fairness and exemplary demeanor that Judge Millette provided for Mr. Muhammad and the victims' families and the others involved in that case is, in fact, what has been provided to the citizens of our community, in all cases, small and large. In the process of this difficult selection, there were many, many outstanding candidates who came before the governor. And in my capacity as president of the Virginia Association of Defense Attorneys, past president, I spoke to many defense lawyers as well as plaintiffs' lawyers, Chuck Zalzig from the VTLA, and many other outstanding lawyers around the state to try to develop support for Judge Millette's candidacy. Without exception, this candidacy was greeted with uniform support for the reasons I've cited. His qualities are these. He's steadfast. And when I say he is steadfast, he is not easily deterred. He is a reliable friend, as many are here. He's fair but decisive, meaning willing to make a decision, but only after listening and considering. He's firm but not dogmatic, He's kind but not overly emotional, honest, and above all, honest. Finally, and the most important thing is that he's not overwhelmed by the authority and power of being a judge. He's aware that the law and the rule of law and fairness are the watchwords of maintaining the system. In conclusion, it is indeed a high honor to stand before you this day and to help introduce the Honorable LeRoy F. Millette, Jr. to the court. I, for one, am convinced that this is an honor richly deserved. The great Commonwealth of Virginia and our citizens will be greatly served by the decision. To you, Judge Millette, I offer my sincerest congratulations, and to the judges of the court, thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Judge Millette, I'm going to now invite you to make remarks to those who have gathered here to witness your taking of the oath of office as a judge of the Court of Appeals of Virginia, and to have you invested and to have seen you invested in a black robe by your delightful family. Judge Millette, would you please approach the podium?
Thank you, Judge Fenton. It's really hard to follow what I've already heard today, and I hope to do my best at doing that. I would like to recognize some people. I don't want to be duplicative of the people that Judge Fenton recognized, but I do want to recognize some people who are here today. When I first saw how difficult the travel was going to be today, I thought the best thing might be able to just walk around among everybody and recognize and thank everybody for being here. I think time would indicate that that's not the best way to do that. The first people I want to recognize and thank is the three people that are most important to me in the whole world, and that's my family. To my wife Beth, and to my daughter Lauren, and to my son Rory. Certainly in any person's career there's ups and downs and successes and failures, and the best part for me has been able to come home and share with them the ups and downs, and all four of us share everything together, so I would recognize and thank them. I want to thank and recognize the members of the Investiture program, certainly all the judges in the Court of Appeals. I appreciate your being here today. Again, the weather was difficult, and I appreciate your taking time out of your schedule to be here with me today. I appreciate that all the other people were able to be here today too, the presenters. I thank you very much for being here. I do want to say a couple things about certain people on the program who have meant a great deal to my career. Paul Ebert is one I want to talk a little bit more about. Since I get to go last, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to say something about Mr. Ebert. Mr. Ebert was the last boss I ever had, and I guess that's why I went on the bench, because I didn't think I could do any better than that. A couple of months ago, somebody from the other part of the state told me that Prince William County was blessed by having the best Commonwealth Attorney's Office in the state, and I think they're right. And I think you can measure that by the quality of the prosecutors have been in his office, including my wife Beth. Even some of them have gone on the bench, which I guess may mean that he did a good job training some of his prosecutors or not. Another thing about Paul that I think is important is that he simply has the best cases in the Commonwealth. When I was a prosecutor and since I've been a judge, we just had the most interesting cases. You couldn't make up some of the things that have happened in Prince William County. I don't know this for a fact, but I kind of believe that the Bobbitts, Lorena and John, sat down and figured out where they could do their little domestic squabbles so they could make sure that Paul got a chance to prosecute him. The one thing I want to tell you about Paul is this. When I came to work for him, I'd been a defense attorney for 12 years, and we'd been friends, and we tried cases against each other, and I won some and didn't win some of them. But I remember when I started with him on July 1st of 1986, I came to him and I asked him, I said, do you have any instructions for me or any advice on how I should do this job? And he really looked kind of surprised, and had a surprised look in his eyes, and he said, I think you should just do what you think is the right thing. And that's sort of the last advice he ever gave me. The second person I'd like to recognize who was also on the investiture panel was Senator Chuck Colgan. I've known Senator Colgan longer than I've been a judge, but particularly since I've been a judge, and I would say to the people of Prince William County that he is absolutely the best legislator that anybody in the judiciary or any member of the bar could have. He has always treated everybody in the judiciary with the utmost respect and dignity. He has been fair to us beyond measure. He hasn't always taken the recommendation of the Bar Association, but he would always consider it and tell you why he could or could not follow that recommendation. And he has absolute integrity, and when he tells you something, you can take it to the bank. So I think we're very fortunate to have had Senator Colgan to be representing us for all these many years, and the bench and bar are particularly lucky to have him. One person I'd like to recognize isn't here today. Governor Kane is a person I would like to recognize. I think he said he's got something to do with the budget or some other thing he thinks is important. I don't know. But I certainly understand why he's not here today. And his senior advisor, Mark Rubin, is here. And I would tell the people gathered here today that the governor was incredibly kind to me in the process. If you ever say you enjoy looking for a job or trying to apply for a job, it was an enjoyable experience. I enjoyed my interaction with him. He talked with me very frankly and openly. And Mark Rubin has been the same way. And even though we had a little trouble with the General Assembly, they stood with me all the way, and I appreciate everything that they did for me. And if he were here, I would tell Governor Kane all those things. We have a number of retired judges from the Circuit Court of Prince William County that I'd like to recognize. To me, I think it's important that we remember what they've done for the county. We're blessed by having Judge Arthur Sinclair with us here today. And Judge Sinclair, as most of you know, it's his name on our professionalism award that we give every year, which is the highest award that the Bar Association can give. I was lucky enough to practice in front of him on a daily basis. When I first started practicing, he was the regular circuit court judge in Prince William County, and I saw him on a daily basis to practice in front of him. And he was a role model for any lawyer, and certainly for me as a judge later on. He also paid me, I think, the highest compliment I ever received. Shortly after the Muhammad trial, Judge Sinclair saw me up in chambers and told me that we had made the judiciary of the Commonwealth proud. And I took that to be quite a compliment. Judge Selwyn Smith is another of our retired judges, and I had the good fortune of taking Judge Smith's place. I moved into his office, I took his bailiff, I took his courtroom clerk, but he didn't hold that against me. And Judge Smith has always treated Beth and I as if we were another one of his two more of his children. And I can't say enough about how kindly he treated me and how much he made me feel a part of the court and the bench. Judge Frank Haas is here today, and what I learned from Judge Haas was a work ethic that is unmatched. When I was chief judge, I assigned Judge Haas one case in particular, and I think he stayed till midnight trying the case, and that was simply the way he was. It may be a surprise to some of you, but some of the cases that circuit court judges here are not as interesting or as well prepared as others. I know, it's pretty hard to believe. Judge Haas never, ever complained about what he was assigned. And in fact, he developed this quote that we still use back in chambers. And all we would say is, work is work. So I congratulate Judge Haas for his work ethic. Judge Wisden, I was going to comment about, but he's not here because he's working again. So he had the same kind of work ethic. He's in Fauquier working. There's one other judge that I would like to recognize and thank, although he's not retired, and hopefully he won't retire for a long time, and that's Judge William Hamlin. Judge Hamlin and I were law school classmates. We tried cases against each other. He was a prosecutor when I was a defense attorney. I remember I won most of them, but it might be under the category that the older I am, the better I was. I don't know. Judge Hamlin has been my closest colleague on the circuit court bench and best friend for the last 15 years. And I've pretty much every day walked down the hall and said something to him about a case I had or asked him a question about it. And one of the negatives, I think, about going on the Court of Appeals might be that I can't do that anymore. But on the other hand, Judge Hamlin has always insisted that he could never understand any reason why any of his rulings would ever be appealed, much less reversed. So I think I should be able to call him and ask him some questions. A very special person to me is retired Judge William Murphy. And Judge Murphy came a long way today. He lives down in the Northern Neck, and it's not easy for him to get here. And I really appreciate him being here. He was actually the first person that ever talked to me about being a judge. I was 30 years old when he convinced somehow the circuit court to appoint me as a substitute judge and a special justice. And through that, I developed an interest in going on the bench. And he really supported my candidacy for the General District Court bench, and I think was instrumental in me having an opportunity to serve on the bench. And we actually served together for a little bit before he retired, and then shortly thereafter, I went to the circuit court. And he's always been supportive of me on the circuit court and supportive of me for the Court of Appeals. But I got to tell you one thing. He's always told me that I had made a mistake, that the district court was just the best bench in the whole Commonwealth. He said, Lee, the best thing about it is they don't have a record. You can say whatever you want to say and get away with it. So I'm sorry to disappoint him in that area, but I want to thank all the other members of the local bench that are here today. I appreciate your coming today. It's a lousy day weather-wise, and I know you want to get on home, and I appreciate you being here for me. I've known most of you forever, it seems like, and have worked with you, and I appreciate you being here with me today. We've got a number of other, some retired circuit court judges, some active circuit court judges, mostly from Northern Virginia, and I appreciate all of you being here today, and I'd like to recognize and thank you. We've been colleagues forever. Quite literally, I could walk around and talk about every single person and the impact they've had upon my being here. I'd like to thank the constitutional officers for being here today. The other ones we've already talked about, Mr. Ebert, and can't say much more about him. So Ms. McQuigg, the clerk of the court, is here, and so is Glenn Hill, the sheriff. And I appreciate them being here. I appreciate members of the local delegation. Mr. Nichols is here. I know the others have had an opportunity, didn't have an opportunity to be here. I don't want to repeat Judge Fenton and reintroduce Justice Keenan and Judge Fitzpatrick and Judge Willis, but I think you all know how important it is to me that you were here today, and I sure appreciate your being here. I want to thank and recognize all the members of the local Prince William Board of Supervisors and the City Council and MANASSAS and the mayor and Manassas and the people from Manassas Park. I think particularly the Prince William County Board of Supervisors has been extremely generous to our court. I think we had law clerks probably before just about anybody else did in Northern Virginia, and they helped us do a good job up here. And pretty much anything we've ever asked or needed for, we've been given by the local bodies, and I want to express my appreciation for that. I want to thank all the other lawyers who are here today, members of the Prince William County Bar and other attorneys. I want to thank all the court personnel, the law clerks, the clerk staff. I would point out particularly Bob Marsh. Bob has been here the entire time I have, and I think at a previous time I mentioned to him that he was sort of the face of the circuit court. And actually, when I realized he was leaving, that's when I decided to try to go up to the Circuit Court of Appeals. Just wouldn't be the same without him. I want to thank all the bailiffs. I want to thank the police officers, the probation officers, and everybody else connected with the court. And I think that it's been a terrific experience being here. I want to thank all my friends and classmates from college and from law school and friends that I've developed over the years, and let you know how much I appreciate you being here. There is a few other people I want to pay special recognition to, and this will be the last of this part of my talk. Betty Jenkins retired a couple of weeks ago, and she had been a clerk in the clerk's office for 33 years. She served a couple years with Judge Sinclair, I think 13 years with Judge Smith, and I eked out both of them, and she served 15 years with me. And she was the only clerk that I ever had. Jack Fulmore was my bailiff, Bill O'Connell was my bailiff, and Matt Todd was my bailiff. And it's rare that you have just 4 people help you for a 15-year period. And those of you that are familiar with the court system know that you really develop a bond with your clerk and bailiffs. And I would like to recognize all of them and thank them for everything they did over the years. When I try to think, after the recognition part, I try to think what I could say today. And there were a couple things that I wanted to say. What I want to tell you is this, that I've been coming to this courthouse for 34 years, just about every single day. And it's really going to be a shock not to do that. I love being an attorney in private practice. I love being a prosecutor, and I love being a general district court judge. And the best job of all was the circuit court. Judge Duff, who was on the Court of Appeals, used to come and substitute for us, and he said, you know, circuit court's the best job in the Commonwealth. I hope he was wrong. I hope he really meant it was the second best job. But I hope to find that out. I'm going to find that out pretty soon. I am very proud of the judicial system in Prince William County. I think that we do an excellent job. And in thinking about that and trying to think what I could say to you, I thought I would talk to you just for a minute about professionalism, because that's something that we talk about all the time. And we talk about it in terms that we're not quite sure what we mean by it. But I can talk about 2 concepts that I'd like you to consider about professionalism. And the first one is this. And from the very first day I got out of law school and started practicing law, I realized that it was a tremendous responsibility to represent people, to come before the courts and to try to help them resolve their disputes. I think that we are entrusted with a tremendous responsibility when we do that. And because of that, I think we're required to work as hard as we can to do the job just as well as we can. We have, I think, the best justice system in the world, and one of the reasons it is the best is because people that come before it believe they're going to be treated fairly, and it only happens that way if everybody does the best job they possibly can do. I believe that the people that I worked with over the years did do that. I think that everybody tries as hard as they can to do as good a job as they can, and if they haven't reached that yet, they at least have it as an aspiration or as a goal to work toward. The second aspect of professionalism that I think that we exhibit in Prince William County is this. I think that whether you're a lawyer or a person in the clerk's office or a judge, you should treat the people that you come in contact with the way that you would want them to treat you. And I am proud of the way that we do that in Prince William County. And I think that is an indication of the kind of job that we do. 34 years ago, I graduated from law school and began practicing law. And I would think back about that, and I would think about it this way. I think if somebody told me right then, you get to have a series of jobs, and in these jobs, you're entrusted with the things that are most important to people. You're entrusted with their liberty, perhaps the custody of their children, the support for their children and their families, the division of their property, compensation for them if they've been injured. And you're entrusted with that is what you do on a daily basis. And in addition, you get to go to work with people that you really like and that work hard every day. In addition to that, you get to try to follow the law and do what you're supposed to do. And finally, at the end of the day, at the end of your career, you can say, I try to do the right thing. If somebody told me that, I'd say, where can I get that job and how much is it going to cost me to have it? I'm overwhelmed by your being here today and by your support. I am looking forward to the opportunities and challenges of the Court of Appeals, and I hope that I can make you proud of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Millette, and in this formal setting, welcome. I want to express my appreciation that the good people of Prince William County and the Circuit Court and the people who are responsible for herding us all into one place on a day that was maybe not as we would have hoped it would be in terms of weather. You have been gracious in your hospitality. We deeply appreciate that. And as we adjourn today with this special session, we thank you for giving us LeRoy Francis Millette, Jr. to sit with us. He will be a wonderful addition to this court, and we look forward to his serving with us for many years to come. I am told that as we rise momentarily, there are libations and sustenance beyond the doors. That being said, we should not deter longer, but once again, thank you for helping us in this special session of the Court of Appeals celebrate the investiture of Judge Millette. The court is adjourned.